Meeting's called to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Good morning. Calling the roll for the Monday, July 23rd Board of Control meeting. It is now 11:07 a.m. Nan Baker. Dale Miller. Joe Nani serving as an alternate for Dan Brady. Mike Dever. Lenora Lockett. Dennis Kennedy. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Minutes from July 16th. Any corrections? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved. Any public comment?
No public comment at this time. I would like to say that we're having technical difficulties with our laptop, so we won't be able to present the item on the screens today.
Okay, everybody has it, I believe. One tabled item?
Yes, first tabled item, BC 2018-435, Department of Development, recommending an award on requisition 41536 and enter into a contract with Community Housing Solutions in the amount not to exceed $50,000 for emergency furnace repair, knob and tube electrical replacement services. And it's for the period April 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2018.
Morning, Sarah Parks Jackson with the Department of Development. We are requesting approval of this award to Community Housing Solutions for our emergency furnace repair. This program is funded with Community Development Block Grant funds. It serves low to moderate income homeowners, thus allowing them to make emergency furnace repairs, and Community Housing Solution also has agreements with other organizations, so if it gets to the point where the furnace actually has to be replaced, they have the ability to make that happen. The knob and tube is something that got added this year. What we found out was that the state's weatherization program would no longer allow participants who had knob and tube wiring in their home. We actually, there was a CDSG grant awarded to one of our nonprofits to help with this, and we thought that it was so vital to allow those low to moderate income people the opportunity to take advantage of two programs. They could get their knob and tube replaced and thus be eligible to participate in the weatherization program.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilman Miller.
I presume that you get many more requests for this service than this money would provide for. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Councilwoman Baker.
That was pretty much my question. Is 50,000 enough, especially adding more to the services? And I realize it's only for 5 more months, so it's whoever asks for these dollars in the next 5 months instead of, what is that, maybe 9-month program? Do you think that 50,000 is enough to do what you need to do to service what's needed?
What we have seen is that the bulk of the requests come in, of course, in the winter. And we have already started the RFP process for the next round. The 50,000 seems to work because of the other programs that are out there. I believe East Ohio Gas has furnace programs, and there's some others. So the fact that we're serving the urban county, not Cleveland, East Cleveland, which are our entitlement communities, we get right to the 50, and then a new grant period generally comes in where we've RFP'd it. And over the years, Community Housing Solutions has been the only responder to our RFP, and they've been working the program and doing a great job at it.
Just to follow, the emergency furnace repair, I would think, would be towards going into fall and winter. But the knob and tube, how would people know that they even have knob and tube unless they're doing some kind of remodeling or renovating, or how does that really fit with the emergency service repair?
Those referrals are going to actually come in. Those folks would actually be applying for home weatherization and would then find out that they have, if they don't know already, that they have knob and tube issues, and then now have an option of 2 organizations that they could go to have that replaced.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
For review, Item BC 2018-465, Department of Public Works, submitting an amendment to a contract with Great Lakes Petroleum Co. for middle distillates for various county facilities. And it's for the period June 1st, 2015 through June 30th, 2018, to extend the time period to September 30th, 2018, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $190,000.
Mike Chambers of Public Works. We're asking for approval of this amendment. We've been waiting and working with the state of Ohio to finally renew their state term, which they finally just did, and it's going to be actually with the same vendor. And probably in the next 3 weeks, we'll be bringing that forward to you guys through a counseling hearing. However, in the interim, we had to continue buying fuel, and we projected to use up to the end of September for this amendment. We average about $35,000 a month, so we are going through that. And plus, we're allowing for a little bit of a price fluctuation. So whatever we don't use as part of this agreement, we'll decertify and we'll roll into our new agreement.
Thank you. Questions?
I have one.
Councilwoman Baker?
So the extra 190,000 is for past use, waiting for the federal government funding to come in?
Well, the actual contract or the amendment we have here was going to start on July 1st. So we
Right.
probably owe maybe, I would say about 25,000 right now from the month. Since
Okay.
we're averaging about 35,000 with sanitary, 15 to 20,000 with road and bridge a month. So it's just to hold us over for those few weeks while we're waiting for the state term. This has actually been going on. We've had a couple amendments already waiting on the state to renew their state term. This has been going on, I think, almost a year, if I'm not mistaken. So they finally selected the vendor, resolved all the issues they had, and, we're ready to move forward.
Just to follow up, would you expect there would be an excess of funding then because we're allowing more funding now?
I would say that, we're using 35,000 a month, for
Probably not.
sanitary. We're going to be, there's probably, yeah, I would say there's going to be a little bit. The other thing too is, once we get the final price, with the new state term, we may top everything off and take advantage of, whichever's cheaper. So, we have that flexibility as well.
Okay, interesting. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Next item, item BC 2018-466, Department of Development, recommending a loan to Cleveland Rocks Holding LLC in the amount of $80,000 for assistance with environmental remediation, lead paint, and asbestos abatement in connection with the redevelopment and renovation of the historical Ohio City Masonic Center located at 2831 Franklin Boulevard in Cleveland.
Good morning. I'm with the Department of Development. We're asking for approval on a US EPA revolving loan in the amount of $80,000, and this will be going to the entity Cleveland Rocks LLC. This is for pre-development expenses. There's some asbestos and lead paint issues in this vacant building, and we're looking to get the stage set for the second phase of the development, in which the client will be converting this space into a rock climbing gym, mixed use with some office space and a maker space with an incubator. So this will allow people to come there to learn computer skills, to start their own businesses, to help incubate them there. So this will also be providing a great use to this building that's been vacant for quite a while, and bringing it back onto the county tax rolls and getting it up to date. So we have the EPA funds, these monies come from the EPA, and we have a deadline of the end of this month to get the approval and get under contract, and that's why we're here, to get this approved and to move forward to get this abatement completed.
Anthony, can you state your name?
Yes, Anthony Stella with Department of Development. Sorry.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none. Oh, Councilwoman Baker.
I didn't realize this was for an incubator. Is that what you said?
Yes, part of it will be an incubator within the space, correct?
We have those type of incubators in Cleveland now.
Correct.
Are you in cooperation with them, or how is that being, how you're not being redundant, or is there a need for an overflow?
I can have the client come up here and explain
Okay.
with a little more detail to that.
Curious, because I know we already are doing that.
Sure. And this is Kevin Whiten, who's the He's the owner of the entity,
Okay.
Cleveland Rocks.
Thank you, and thank you, Councilwoman.
Sure.
Yeah, so the concept of the makerspace is it's going to provide community access to laser cutters, 3D printers, software development classes, youth-based coding camps, mentorship for software development, business incubation. So, when you kind of think of what we're doing and how it differs from other pre-existing incubator-type establishments in Cleveland, we're kind of providing resources for the pre-early stage entrepreneur, where many other organizations that are, like Jumpstart or just a few that come to mind, really focus on
Magnet might be another.
Magnet, more focus on established businesses and established companies that if you're already making, a couple $100,000 of revenue, that's the sweet spot for them, and we're really providing resources for the early stage entrepreneurs so they can learn the technology skills to run their own business, and it's a nonprofit, so it's all
Nonprofit.
nonprofit. So does that answer your question?
It helps. It's good to know there's more resources out there, and
Exactly.
I just was curious what you were doing.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And you have a rock climbing wall, right?
Well, yeah.
Further questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes.
Thank you.
The next item, item BC 2018-467, is being held at the request of the fiscal officer regarding the funding source. Next item, item BC 2018-468, Department of Information Technology, submitting an amendment to a contract with Environmental Systems Research Institute, Inc. for Enterprise Geographic Information System, Health Check, and Support Services. And it's for the period December 1st, 2017 through December 31st, 2018, to expand the scope of services to include ARC 360 and ArcGIS, Enterprise Jumpstart Basic Services packages. And it's effective July 1st, 2018, and it's for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $12,983. And we're going to add the funding source as the ERP budget that will be covering the expenses.
Morning, Board. Dennis Silva, Department of IT. That is correct on the funding source. As you recall, or may recall, that Esri is the platform for the county standard GIS. And we had the prior contract that included the on-site health check. And this is the result of determinations needed to upgrade the county to get them back to the standard as recommended.
Any questions? Councilwoman Baker.
Given this funding source now is the ERP, is that part of the 25 million that's put aside for the EMP, or is it for the operating piece that is some of which is in the 25 million, but some of it is not? Where is this capital or is this operating? On-site installation and support. So
Janelle Green, Department of IT. It should be in the capital expense for this year. This would be the one-time expense to get as part of the EAM portion of the ERP project.
was that figured in when the ERP was first proposed?
No, some of the things that
They're
came
tight.
up with the project were not anticipated, but this is still within budget, and we've had some savings on other contract areas, and this was put before the ESC committee, which is all the affected chiefs meeting on May 16th, and they all thought this was an item that was needed.
And all have agreed within their leadership of ERP
It was
that
in the
this is
contents of that
appropriate.
meeting.
Good. All right, thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Next item, item number BC 2018-469, Department of Information Technology. It's a two-part item. A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 43023, which will result in an award recommendation to Dell Marketing in the amount not to exceed $1,013.76, and it's for the purchase of 2 Microsoft Project Professional subscriptions to allow project management and tracking for the Veteran Service Commission, and B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning again, Dennis Sullivan, Department of IT. This, as you recall, we bought other things through this. This is a master service agreement the county has with Dell. It is effective until June 30th of 2020. And these subscriptions will be put under the master, which will also enable veteran service to pick up. One of the main benefits is that it gets software assurance, which gives you free upgrades. If there's any version upgrade of the software, you pay once and you get your automatic upgrades.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none, I move to, Mr. Kennedy.
Dennis, who's paying for this? Is it coming out of the IT budget of the veterans?
This is veterans. I have it's under VS 490052.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Sure, Councilwoman Baker.
Indicated as a general fund, so
It's under their, it's under general fund, veteran services. It's under their category called other expenses.
just that for anyone looking at this, they would say, I'm sorry, anyone looking at this, they would say just general fund. And it would be easier in the detail to know specifically where those dollars are being taken. And you had the answer, it's just a matter of maybe letting us know.
The direct charge of veteran service, their index out of their operating budget, general fund.
Right.
And specifically, it's under their software category.
Okay.
Other questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, item number BC 2018-470, Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office, recommending a sole source award on requisition 41787 to Access Data Group, Inc., in the amount not to exceed $11,100, and it's for renewal of 12 forensic toolkit recovery and examination software licenses, and it's for the period January 31st, 2018 through January 31st, 2019.
Good morning, Dave Ferteri, Commander of the Ohio Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force for the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office. This award, as stated, is for forensic examination software that is utilized during the course of our investigations for child exploitation and child pornography investigation. It supports not only the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force here in Ohio and Cleveland, but also our affiliate agencies that are spread throughout the 88 counties in Ohio, for the period as stated 1/31/18 to 1/31/19. And we are certainly aware that this vendor still needs to register with the Inspector General's office given the amount of this funding, and we will make sure that occurs.
Has any of the work been done yet? You don't have this yet, these additional licenses. The additional toolkit.
We utilize the licenses every year. They need to be renewed in order to continue to update the software, allow it to function to its full extent. But we do have them.
I guess my question is, you listed the start date as January 31st of 18. Why not now as the start date?
Well, the software expired January 31st of 18.
You have to continue it.
Yes.
Okay.
If we don't, it requires a reinstatement fee.
I got it. Any other questions?
Just a follow-up to that.
Yes, Councilwoman Baker.
Why couldn't it start the first of the year instead of, or January 31st? Why did it wait till now? I understand you want to continue the contract, so it needs to be dated that way, but why didn't we start back in January or February for this instead of waiting till July?
It's been an ongoing process since January. We submitted it to our office in January. It's my understanding there was some turnover in our office, that there were some issues with the on-base system, as well as us waiting for a sole source letter from Access Data.
Okay.
And that's what's put us to this point.
Do you anticipate those issues to come up when this expires at the end of next year?
I do not know.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Nani. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Next item, item BC 2018-471, Court of Common Pleas, Juvenile Court Division, recommending an award on requisition 41427 and enter into a contract with Child and Family Advocates of Cuyahoga County in the amount not to exceed $109,875, and it's for the Guardian Ad Litem project, and it's for the period July 15th, 2018 through July 14th, 2019.
Good morning, Karen Littman with Juvenile Court. This is a contract resulting from an RFP for the management of the Guardian Ad Litem project at Juvenile Court. They provide training, continuing education, they do some mentoring, a newsletter, and they manage our list of GALs that are trained.
Thank you. Questions? Councilman Miller.
It says 95-1. Does that mean 95 agents received bid documents?
Yes, so we actually RFP'd this twice. The first time we RFP'd it, we only got the one response. And so what we did was we actually sent it out to the entire GAL list and the entire, and a good portion of the assigned counsel list that we have that's current, because we wanted it really open to see if we could get any more interest and any more competition. Unfortunately, we got one result again.
Okay,
Any
But
other
the price
questions?
went down.
good. Yeah. Well, you
Any other
Good.
questions?
scared them about competition.
That's exactly right.
Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, item passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, item BC 2018-472, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services, recommending an award on requisition 42248 and enter into an agreement with the City of Cleveland in the amount not to exceed $122,634.42, and it's for prosecution services for domestic violence and sexual assault cases in connection with the fiscal year 2017 Stop Violence Against Women Act grant program, and it's for the period January 1st, 2018 through December 21st, 2018.
Good morning, Mary Beth Vaughn from Public Safety. And this is the third of 3 awards from the VAWA grant to the City of Cleveland. You'll recall last week when I was here, I explained that we couldn't actually send the contracts out until we got notification of the final award from the state of Ohio. We received that in February, and we sent these agreements to the City of Cleveland on February 13th. This agreement actually went for, their law department wanted some changes to it. So whereas we received the other ones on June 15th, we received this one on June 21st. The delays were the additional language that they wanted changed in the contract, and the other is that they had to go through their city approval process.
Thank you. This is for, I think you said 4.
Yes, I'm sorry, it's for 4
Prosecutors,
prosecutors and
2
2
law
law
clerks.
clerks. The
Are
special,
these renewing them or adding?
these are renewing them. These, they did not lay off these prosecutors. They've actually had this grant since 2003.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilwoman Baker.
So we have 6 more months left, or even that. We're now going into August here shortly. So the amount is the same as if it was January through December. So I guess are they waiting for their money?
They're waiting for their money, correct.
So
They've been delivering the services. Like I said, they did not lay off the staff who's delivering the service.
Right.
And once this contract is approved, the grant does allow them then to go back and submit for reimbursement for the expenses they've incurred.
Okay, and that's, did you say 3?
4.
It's 4 prosecutors and 2 law clerks. And then like the 2 contracts last week, we don't actually have the ability to reallocate these dollars because the VAWA grant does require that 25% be spent on prosecution. This is the only vendor who submitted a proposal for prosecution.
Right, is this going to be, just standard business that we will be reimbursing those that are there doing work without being paid? Is this just the way the grant works and there's not a whole lot we can do about it?
It is problematic with grants because oftentimes we do not receive the notice of award till well into the grant performance period. Just by sake of comparison, Our Homeland Security contracts started back in October. We didn't get the approval to proceed until May of this year. It's just, and you hear that from the other departments, it's just part of the process. We are looking at ways to streamline, and I do have an alternate procurement that will help a little bit, that's gonna be coming up in a few minutes, but it's part and parcel to these grants.
I'm just, curious, there may be those that need this money and are living for 6 or 7 months without being paid and going to work every day.
And in some case, and what happens is when they're new providers, they don't actually start delivering service. They wait until they get that contract approved, the subrecipient agreement approved, so they know everything is good to go. It's when we have ongoing grants where people have been funded for initiatives for a couple of years, it's too disruptive then to lay off staff, to have to bring them back and restart the programs back up. So they kind of take that risk.
Wow. Is there anything against these grants and their regulations or rules that we can't pay these employees and then us be reimbursed back for the 6 or 7 months that we're waiting for it?
I personally would prefer not to put that would be putting the onus on the county's general fund, and I would prefer not to do that. This way, we're both partners in it. It's incumbent, here, with the VAWA ones in particular, we approved all of the other VAWA awards back in April. It's only the Cleveland ones that took this long. So I prefer to take and kind of keep us both in the same boat.
Yeah. Okay, it's just, I would think that would be difficult, asking people to work and not be paid.
I mean, it's something we can pursue, but like I said, that my concern would be is if we did go ahead in advance. Well, actually, you know what, I'm going to backtrack on that statement because we cannot, until we have the contract approved, we can't incur the expense anyways. That's not even a county requirement. That is a grant requirement, so I'm going to backtrack on that statement.
All right, well, yes, go ahead. I was just going to say, hopefully we can perhaps narrow this time, 6 or 7 months asking an employee or 4 or 5 different employees, 4 prosecutors. It just seems.
No, the city of Cleveland paid these prosecutors.
Okay.
It's the city of Cleveland who's not getting reimbursed until this contract gets approved.
So
Yeah, the employee, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that part of your question.
Okay.
No, these employees have been paid.
All right.
This is about reimbursing the city of Cleveland for the expenses they've incurred. Yes, including the staff.
That
Yes.
sounds better.
More money than we got.
I was going to say, so they're able to do it.
Yeah, no, the employees have been paid.
They have been?
Yes.
All right, it
It's
just
the
seems
city.
unreasonable to think that they're going to. Right, okay, thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Next item BC 2018-473, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services, on behalf of the Sheriff's Department, recommending an award on requisition 42124 and enter into a sole source contract with Sundance Systems, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $79,800 for development, support, and maintenance of an interface between the Sundance Records Management System and the Criminal Justice Information Sharing Data Warehouse, and it's for the period July 24th, 2018 through July 23rd, 2023.
Mary Beth Vaughn again. So Sundance Record Management System is a system that is actually used by 12 municipal law enforcement agencies in Cuyahoga County. And what this interface would do is it's going to make those records in those communities available to the rest of the law enforcement community in Cuyahoga County through the data warehouse. We brought this to you earlier and you asked that we go out for sole source. We did do that. There were no responses. And so we're bringing it back to you for consideration.
Further questions? Yes, Mr. Kennedy.
Hey,
Hi.
you said 12 use it?
12 municipal, yes.
What do the other ones use?
I actually don't have that committed to memory. I know that we're looking at building interfaces. There's going to be 6 interfaces, including the one with the sheriff. So there are 4 other ones out there. I know one's with a company called Securus, but I don't remember the other 3.
So will this ultimately, this whole project then interface all the other systems?
Yes, all of these other systems will then be interfaced into the data warehouse, and then any community can access the data, regardless of what system it resides in.
I guess the only question I would have is why don't the other ones use Sundance? If it's proprietary, why wouldn't they all use Or why wouldn't we encourage them so we have one system?
Our product is actually the data warehouse that we have with Chagrin Valley Dispatch. This is just what these 12 communities use. We actually don't use Sundance either. We're just going to pull the data out of the Sundance system and into the data warehouse to make it available to everyone else.
Everyone else.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Further questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Nani. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is a two-part item, item BC 2018-474, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Homeless Services. A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 42669, which will result in an award recommendation to Joseph's Home in the amount not to exceed $267,547 for temporary housing and medical respite services for medically fragile homeless men. And it's for the period July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019, and B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Shari Ware, Office of Homeless Services. Joseph's Home provides a unique service in the community, serving men who are either exiting the hospital and are homeless and need some follow-up care, or who are waiting to go into the hospital. It's the only program in the community that provides this service.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Next item, item BC 2018-475, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Early Childhood, submitting an amendment to a contract with Family Connections of Northeast Ohio for fiscal and administrative services for the supporting partnerships to Assure Ready Kids program, which is SPARK, for Invest in Children. And it's for the period January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2019, for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $201,500.
Good morning, Marcos Cortez with the Office of Early Childhood, Invest in Children. Again, this is a contract amendment with Family Connections of Northeast Ohio for our SPARK program. SPARK is an early literacy program for 3 and 4-year-olds where a trained specialist, a parent partner we call them, enter the home and provide monthly lessons for the child and the parent to help them prepare, be ready to enter kindergarten.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Councilwoman Baker.
All right, so these are an example of why we would continue this program when we have the UPK now in place. And that is exactly the same age groups, 3 and 4 years old. And I understand this is going into the home, but the UPK is really trying to put those children into the school environment. So I guess I would ask, first of all, is this a program that should be continued? And if it is, why, given the UPK? And we just are asked to approve another $8 million in the UPK program that I would think would take care of these children.
So like you said, like I mentioned, this is an in-home program for 3 and 4-year-olds. These children that they target for SPARK may or may not be in a preschool setting, so they may be in a child care, they may or may not be in a high-quality setting. So a lot of the kids that they recruit, you know, are either not in a preschool, or if they are, they're not in quality. So when they do recruit them for the program, they encourage them to become part of a preschool and a high-quality preschool. So it is not a duplication. It's these kids aren't getting any services already that they're targeting. So it's something that we feel it's needed in the community. The communities that they are located in, Warrensville Heights, Maple Heights, East Cleveland, are some of the highest need areas in terms of literacy and kindergarten readiness. So that's specifically why we're in those communities.
Doesn't the UPK go in those areas also and really target those areas?
I know that they're in East Cleveland. I'm not specifically sure if they're in Maple Heights or in Warrensville. I believe that they probably are in those specific areas, but I'm not sure if if these kids that are in SPARK are also in UPK.
Okay, and I know that UPK is targeting these children that are in highest need I would think that you would find that many of these children would be in both. And maybe both is what's needed, but it is a pretty significant investment that we're making in the UPK. And if there's a couple of $100,000 that could help with that program, I'm just asking if that's been considered. Also, I see that we have a 1/1/18 start date, and this is now almost August. Has this program been, have you been using this program, or how?
This is a contract amendment, so the program started January 1st, so we are adding additional dollars to the program. So the program is currently in operation. One thing I can suggest is we can try to do an overlay to see if the Spark kids are in UPK.
Yes.
And exactly where the UPK sites are compared to where the Spark sites are as well.
Anytime we can save in duplicating services, and like I said, this may not be, maybe this is a different type of service targeted at children that have different needs. But from the presentation we just received on the UPK program, it's trying to encompass parents, trying to raise the awareness of the need for preparing children for kindergarten in those areas that are targeted for that. So it just looks very familiar,
Right.
although this is, I know, an in-home.
Right, and one of the specific goals of Spark is to make the parents the child's first teacher. So I understand that there's the engagement piece for UPK, but this is, reinforcing all of the different activities, the different lessons that the children are getting.
Okay, I would ask for that overlay if you,
Sure.
yeah.
I would just add
Yes.
that UPK, while we've done a huge expansion, is still reaching 4,600 kids out of a cohort eligible of over 20,000.
Yeah.
So, any other questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Nani. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, item BC 2018-476, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Family and Children First Council, recommending an award on requisition 43081 and enter into an agreement with Cleveland Metropolitan School District. And it's in the amount not to exceed $407,800 for school-based and community-based Closing the Achievement Gap program services. And it's for the period July 24th, 2018 through December 31st, 2019.
Good morning, Robin Martin, Family and Children First Council. This is an expansion of the existing Closing the Achievement Gap. This is a new program going into Cleveland Metropolitan School District. It will offer CTAG services for females at Glenville and East Tech, and it is to address youth who are at risk of not graduating from high school.
Questions?
I have one.
Councilwoman Baker.
So this is a new program?
Yes.
Okay.
It's new to Cleveland Metropolitan School District and new to the girls.
New to the girls. And can you just give a little bit more, given it's new? You're reaching at-risk, what is it, 11th, 12th graders, 10th graders?
No. So typically, the girls are in the 9th or 10th grade, and they do not have enough credits to move on to the next grade, and they've been in 9th and 10th grade for a long period of time, so typically 2 to 3 years. And the program works with them to do credit retention, exposure trips, to get them back on track so that they are ready to graduate and hopefully go on to some type of post-secondary.
Right. There would be a encouragement for community college?
Yes.
Yes, okay. All right, sounds good.
Councilman Miller.
Am I correct that while new that this was discussed and provided for in the last biennial budget and was envisioned at that time?
Yes.
So it's just taken a little bit of time to get it up and running?
Because it came in through the budget process, we needed time to negotiate with the vendor, and then they needed time to gather paperwork and go through the school board process of getting approval for signatures.
I'm sure that's a complicated process.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for your leadership on that.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Further questions? Councilwoman Baker.
Based on the amount that you're asking for, 400,000, how many students do you think you're going to be impacted? And I see it's targeted to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6
school system? No, it's only for Cleveland Metropolitan School District. I saw that in the briefing memo. That's just saying where it already exists in the other contract. This will be only at Glenville High School and East Tech High School, and we anticipate them serving about 50 girls per school.
50 per school. So 2 schools,
Yes,
50 per, so 100
Yes.
students you think you'll be impacting?
yes,
Okay, well, thank you for the clarification. It did look like it was going into all those schools.
it does.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
And just as an aside, we should be back in the next week or so with a similar contract for East Cleveland.
With who?
East Cleveland,
East Cleveland.
yes.
Next item, item BC 2018-477, Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Children and Family Services, recommending an award on requisition 43035 and enter into an agreement with Corporation for National and Community Service in the amount not to exceed $2,500 for the provision of 7 VISTA members to provide volunteer services in connection with the AmeriCorps VISTA program. And it's for the period July 6th, 2018 through July 6th, 2019.
Good morning. Paul Porter, Health and Human Services, on behalf of the Division of Children and Family Services. The county is accepting 5 AmeriCorps VISTA members. You'll note that the documentation has 7 members. The federal program required that every available placement have 3 slots available, and Adoption Network Cleveland could only accommodate 2 AmeriCorps VISTA participants. So we let them join in with our application to serve as a program placement site. The $2,500 listed here is to be used in the event of an emergency occurring with any of the AmeriCorps VISTA participants before the federal funding that they will receive as a stipend can get to them. So there isn't a guarantee that we will end up spending those $2,500. This is just to make sure that the county has something in place should an emergency happen for one of those participants before the federal funding makes it to them.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Nani. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Next item is going to be amended to reflect the total amount not to exceed $65,890.50. And this is just to include the City of Agreement Euclid amount of $8,666.50. So, Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Senior and Adult Services, recommending awards on requisition 41917 and enter into an agreement and a contract with various providers in the total amount not to exceed $65,890.50 for development and implementation of Senior Center Innovation Programming in connection with the Senior Center Innovation Grant Program. And it's for the period August 1st, 2018 through July 31st, 2019. A, with a contract with University Settlement in the amount of $57,224, and B, in agreement with the City of Euclid in the amount of $8,666.50.
Good morning. Paul Porter, Health and Human Services, on behalf of the Division of Senior and Adult Services. These are award recommendations as a result of a formal RFP that we conducted for Senior Center Innovation Programming. We had 7 respondents, and of those proposals, we selected the 2 highest scoring proposals. They were the best written proposals and the most innovative proposals.
Thank you. Questions? Councilwoman Baker.
Why is it that we have such a low response? 7 doesn't sound like very many.
Sure.
And of that 7, only 2 met what you felt was the requirement or the most innovative.
Absolutely. This has been the source of some discussion within our team. As you can see here, we sent it out to 175 possible organizations that could provide the service.
Yes.
One of the discussion points was wanting to get started mid-year. The amount of time we had this RFP open was between 3 and 4 weeks. we discussed possibly giving a longer time for the next RFP. And in fact, that's what we did with the recent Community Social Services Program. It was open slightly longer. So I think, trying to do that might allow more time for people to respond. Other than that, we would consider feedback from anybody who received it but did not respond as to whether we should look at changing some of the language in the RFP, considering, how we define innovation. I think there are several different options we have considered looking at for the next time.
I would agree with that. I mean, there are senior centers out there, always looking for funding, and 175 were sent, 17 responded, 2 were selected. 3 to 4 weeks probably isn't enough time.
Sure.
I would say that we should get a better response than 7, narrowed down to 2. And I would ask that and it sounds like you are already considering what you can do to change that.
Absolutely. And as I mentioned, the RFP that recently closed for our general senior center funding, not the innovation-specific programming, was open a couple weeks longer than that.
Good. Thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Next item is a two-part item, item BC 2018-479, Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Senior and Adult Services. A, submitting an RFP exemption which will result in an award recommendation to Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging in the estimated amount of $10,000 for social work services for the Passport Program, and it's for the period July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2020. And B, submitting the agreement in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Paul Porter, Health and Human Services, on behalf of the Division of Senior and Adult Services. This is funding that DSAS has received for a number of years from Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging as part of the Federal Passport Program. Kind of going off what Mary Beth mentioned about some grant deadlines and timing, we didn't receive notice that this award would be continuing until June 21st, and you'll notice the start date is July 1st. We went through the necessary approval processes, review with the law department as soon as we could to get this before you in a timely fashion. But we don't anticipate, based on prior experience with Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging, that they'll get it to us any earlier the next time around.
Questions? Woman Baker.
That July 1st of this year, and we're only at July 20, whatever it is, 23rd, is a reasonable lateness. It's when it's 5, 6, 7 months or more that it raises a little concern. But a few weeks, I think, is not out of as long as it hasn't been paid for.
If you asked our department manager, he would say anything past the start date.
Well,
we always try to get it in at least.
Tell him thank you.
Certainly.
Mr. Nani?
Just to follow up, unrelated to that, is there currently a waiting list for Passport? Do you know?
I am not positive because Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging handles the Passport Program overall, and at this time, this is specific funding just for social work services.
I got that. I was just curious generally. If you could just shoot me.
I'll try and
whenever
find
you
out.
get a chance.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Next item is a two-part item, item number BC 2018-480, Department of Sustainability. A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 42575, which will result in an award recommendation to Cycle Hop LLC in the amount not to exceed $1,500 for the purchase of 25 Bike Share corporate memberships for county employees. And it's for the period August 1st, 2018 through August 1st, 2019. And B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Stephanie Choi from the Department of Sustainability. This money was grant money from NOACA that we received for the Commuter Choice Awards. We thought it'd be good to use this money for bike share memberships, and we decided to work with the Wellness Committee so that we could both promote registration for the wellness platform and registration for UH Bikes. So I know there was a question about why employees are not partially paying for this. And along with wellness, we thought it'd be best to give the full incentive of a full membership because we want to bring in new members. We would like to explore the option with HR of doing something similar to RTA with ongoing sponsorship for partial annual memberships for any employees.
Thank you. Questions?
Just one.
Councilwoman Baker?
So this is a chosen revenue because of a grant that was awarded, and I can understand that. It's nice. It's a good. What happens though after 8/1/19 when these funds are exhausted and you have now a program that is no longer funded? How are you anticipating that you're going to be able to sustain it?
Right, that's a good question. I think for right now, we've only thought to use it as an incentive for a one-year membership for employees, and hopefully it entices them to continue on their membership, and we can explore during this year if we can do some type of ongoing partial funding for it through our department and HR. And then we do apply for this award every single year with NOACA, so hopefully we'll win the award again and be able to do something similar next year.
Are the employees that participate in this understand that this is perhaps a one-time encouragement? It's not something where they do know that?
Yeah, the employees haven't been chosen yet, so it'll be through wellness, and they'll have something where if you sign up and get a certain amount of points, you'll be eligible to possibly get one of the memberships. So we'll advertise it as just a one-year membership.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Item number BC 2018-481, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services, recommending an alternate procurement process and exemption from aggregation for the Stop Violence Against Women Act Block Grant and Title II Formula Juvenile Justice Delinquency and Prevention Act Block Grant programs. And it's for the period July 23rd, 2018 through July 22nd, 2023.
Good morning, Mary Beth Vaughn again from Public Safety. And this request for an alternate procurement actually comes out of conversations that we've had with you at previous Board of Control meetings. And what happens is we bring before you subrecipient awards to nonprofit organizations, and at that time we're asking for RFP exemptions, and then we proceed to go through and explain what our process is, and it sounds very, very similar to you as what the county's RFP process is. And the reality is the processes are very, very similar, but there's a couple of very distinct differences. First of all, we don't use the county's RFP template when we do the request these proposals from agencies. What we actually do is issue a notice of funding opportunity. Once we do that, then the process is, then one other difference is this is a process that we handle entirely in-house in public safety because that's a condition of each of these grants. RFPs, those are actually released by the Office of Procurement and Diversity. But then after that, the processes are very, very similar. You know, we both have open and close dates. We both have formal pre-proposal conferences. We both have formal processes for evaluation. But then when we get to the end, there's another distinct difference. When you go through the RFP process, the recommendation then comes directly to the executive and to the Board of Control to approve the awards. When it comes to subrecipient agreements, they actually have to go back to the state of Ohio as the funder, and they have to approve those subrecipient agreements before we can actually bring them to you. So we're just asking to clarify that this is what the process is, and that it'll eliminate the need for you guys to have to consider RFP exemptions every time we do this. As far as VAWA goes, we are making about 7 awards on average every year, and the individual dollar amounts average between $24,000 and $125,000. The JJDP, the total awards we get for VAWA any one year is the high 400,000s, usually about $475,000 to about $500,000. And then JJDP, we are typically bringing anywhere from 3 to 8 awards to you every year, and our annual award there is $110,000 for the total program. So those can range anywhere from $3,400 to about $42,000.
Thank you. Questions? Councilwoman Baker.
I understood all that. That was,
I'm sorry.
it's nuts. very thorough. I'm sorry if I'm going to ask a redundant.
That's okay.
Because I didn't catch it. So the request does not have a dollar amount attached to it, but you're saying that it could be between 120, 125,000, and the other could be about 35,000, and this is just to award the process? Is that what I heard?
There is no dollar amount associated with this. On an annual basis, we get just shy of about $500,000 on VAWA. And when we go through this whole process with them, we typically are making about 7 awards, up to about 7 awards, and those dollar amounts from those awards can vary. They can be as low as $24,000. They can be as high as $125,000. That's what has been our average over the last couple of years.
Wouldn't you word this then as an up to money that you may receive, or no? Wouldn't you put perhaps the most you would ever receive and then have it not to exceed, or no? I don't remember seeing anything without a dollar amount attached to it, even if it is a goal.
Lenore?
Lenore Lockett, Office of Procurement and Diversity. The purpose of this exemption is to set up the process that will be used. Each of those individual awards, if the exemption from aggregation is approved, will come before this body for approval.
Yes. Thank you, Lenora.
Yes, thanks.
Further questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Next item, BC 2018-482, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services, recommending an alternate procurement process and exemption from aggregation for reimbursement of eligible overtime and backfill expenses to communities for specialized grant-funded training and exercise events, and is for the period July 23rd, 2018 through July 22nd, 2023.
Mary Beth Vaughn again. Now, this alternate procurement is needed to allow us from switching from bringing contracts to you to reimburse communities from overtime and backfill to allow us to actually bring department orders to you. And the fact that we're going through this process is actually not a county's requirement, but because we're switching the way we'd be processing these payments, we're required to actually get this approval by the state of Ohio to show that you have given that we are changing the process for making reimbursements. And this one also is, you may recall back in the spring, I brought 16 agreements to you to reimburse municipalities for overtime and backfill expenses that they had incurred. And those agreements ranged anywhere from $200 to $1,300. And at that time, and they were all contracts, and because they were contracts with municipalities, they can take anywhere from 4 to 5 months, as the city of Cleveland you just saw can take. It's a very tedious process, there for a very small amount of money. And at that time, we were asked, isn't there a better way of doing this? So this is the better way that we'd like to do it. By doing it as a department order, what it'll allow us to do is, first of all, it streamlines the processing, the timeline. It'll cut it down to 1/3 of what it currently takes. It'll also eliminate a lot of work on our office, other county departments, as well as these communities. And it's going to allow us to reallocate these grant dollars, because what happens is we're reimbursing for exercise and drill expenses. Because it takes so long for these drills and exercises to get planned, they tend to happen at the end of a grant period. So like we have one coming up in August for a grant that's going to end in March. If we stick with the contract process, I'm likely not going to be bringing those contracts to you until December or January. By that time, if there's any project dollars left, it will be too late to reallocate them to expense them against the grant. So by making this a more streamlined process, we just see it as a win-win for everyone.
Thank you. Questions? Councilman Miller.
You talked me into it. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Seeing none, well, this was done as response to some of your comments. I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Passes. Thank you.
Next item, item BC 2018-483, Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Senior and Adult Services, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 43072, which will result in an award recommendation to Playhouse Square Foundation in the amount not to exceed $4,525, and is for refreshments and related services for Senior Movie Day participants, being held on August 10th, 2018.
Good morning, Daniel Basta on behalf of Health and Human Services, Senior and Adult Services. This is an amount that was requested for refreshments for Senior Movie Day on August 10th. The space was donated by Playhouse Square. We have to use their particular foundation for the refreshments, and that's why it was put in as an exemption.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you. We're on to the consent agenda. Please take a look at items 484 to 488. Does anybody have any questions? Councilwoman Baker.
So I was just asking on the 487 travel, why, even though there was a transition in staffing, why this is so late even to be asked. It's back in May, this is going into August, and even though we had a staffing change and maybe some gaps there of applying, it just seems like it's been a long time in asking for this reimbursement.
Mike Chambers of Public Works, you are correct. And during our briefing meeting, I showed that we actually gave authority on March 2nd to do all this. You know, we have an internal document and the director signs it.
Mm-hmm.
What I neglected is I assumed that we had, pushed this through on March 2nd when it was said. Unfortunately, we did not sign it until later. Our staff was still working with the travel agent on this, and we did have a transition of our key administrative assistant that handled it. She took a job somewhere else. We had a new person come in. These were lost in the shuffle. So what I've asked to do now is put an actual date that we actually signed it, because the memo was dated March 2nd, but I don't think the director and I signed it until a little bit later on. So I'm going to correct that going forward.
All right, that's good to know, and things happen. I understand that.
It does, and they were asked to do this. It was a guest appearance to do this, to teach a class. It's a great thing for our kennel, which is why we authorized it. Unfortunately, it just got lost in the shuffle.
The staff person who's receiving these funds, I would imagine she would be asking about it after.
Oh yeah, she is. They have not gotten reimbursed. Yeah, I mean the one was actually through the county travel, and then the other one she still hasn't gotten. I think it was. Actually, she hasn't gotten anything. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Questions?
A couple, if you don't mind. There was been a while since I looked at this. The Economic Development Fund is out of general fund, but that's general fund under economic development. That's going into the. Let me take a look here. What I'm doing. Paul Hertug here. On the Paul Hertug Department of Development, it's under the general fund. I guess I was just asking, does that come out of economic development funding as part of general fund?
Yes.
Okay. Again, that would be nice to know when they say funding source to say. Yeah. Okay. And then I was just curious on the HVACs for the 488. 24,500. Take a look at that.
The HVAC motors?
Yeah, just is that various HVAC motors for various county buildings? I mean, how many? That seems like a lot.
Tom Pavich, Department of Public Works. I think I responded to Andre on Friday. So this is just a not to exceed running DO. We'll say up to a year, 6 months to a year. These motors are HVAC. They range in size from, 1.5 horsepower, 320 volt, $200 each. But we also buy $3,000 to $4,000 motors for some of our larger pieces of equipment, and there is needed. We don't have the inventory, so this running deal gives us the option to buy as they break, so it reduces downtime. So there's no specific number of motors. This is just as needed, and because some of them can range from $2,000, $3,000 up to $4,000, we do 24/5. And it was bid out competitively. We had multiple bids.
So there isn't you have nothing in front of you now. This is just in case something happens.
It is. So during the bid, we identified 10 of our most frequently used motors. We bid it out there. We got the set price with the to-be awarded vendor. And if one does go out, we call the vendor. We have them in stock. That they have them in stock for us.
So it's not to exceed. So you may spend 0 or you may spend 24/5.
Correct. I anticipate we'll spend up to 24/5. Historically, we have.
Okay.
Especially this time of the year.
Good. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Seeing none, I move to approve the consent agenda items. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The consent agenda items are approved. Is there any other business?
No other business at this time.
Okay, any public comment?
No public comment.
Then I move to adjourn. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye. We are adjourned.